This is intended to be a three-part discussion on the building located at 112 through 118 West Main Street in Troy, Ohio. Local historians and preservation-minded community members are making comments about the structure located at 112 through 118 West Main Street. Many of these comments are conjecture and wishful thinking. I feel I can provide some insight as to what this building was and what it is today. I am from Troy, and I'm a practicing architect with extensive preservation experience. I'm listed on the State of Ohio Historic Preservation Office's consultants list. Being on the consultants list means that the Preservation Office has determined that my education and my experience meets the federal professional qualification requirements as published by the United States Secretary of the Interior's Standards and Guidelines for Archaeology and Historic Preservation. Being on the consultants list is not an endorsement by the Preservation Office, but it does serve to demonstrate my expertise and that I meet the stringent requirements outlined by the Secretary of the Interior to work on historic architecture. I've migrated my architecture practice to the Academy, where I now teach architecture at an accredited architecture program in New England. While I no longer live in the Miami Valley, I still get phone calls and inquiries about historic properties in Troy, including the Tavern. In 2005, my firm, Patrick Hansford Associates, was hired by the city of Troy to develop a master plan for the renovation of 112-118 West Main Street. At the time, the building was owned by Mr. David Koo. Mr. Koo and his wife operated the restaurant and ice cream shop on the first floor of the building. Part of my architectural services included field measuring the first floor, which allowed me to review the upper floors. In 2011, I would explore the upper floors a second time with another client who was interested in purchasing the building. By measuring and drawing the building, I was able to delineate the footprint of the old courthouse. First and foremost, the Tavern building is not the 1841 courthouse, and the 1841 courthouse is not intact behind the 1902 Oddfellows building. The 1841 building has been altered and modified to such an extreme to make any such claim would be less than truthful. There is a fragment of that building buried inside the complex of structures that make up the Tavern building, but any historical and architectural value was removed 120 years ago. How can I say this? Easy. There are historic and contemporaneously developed documents that clearly depict the development of Troy. They are readily available to the public. The Sanborn Fire Insurance Maps are detailed maps of cities and towns throughout the United States. I use these maps extensively to determine the history and construction sequence of the buildings that I work on. The use of the Sanborn maps are critical in historic preservation work, as they are highly detailed maps depicting each building, their use, their height, the street address, and construction. In some cases, they even show interior walls and exterior windows. Sanborn maps are drawn to scale, and building sizes can be determined. The Sanborn map of 1887 shows the 1841 courthouse, and what we can assume is its original configuration. The first floor was occupied by a printing office and the gas office, and you can see here it's to be vacated, and actually on the 1887 Sanborn maps, the soon-to-be new courthouse is depicted. The first floor, the stairs to the upper floor is shown in the northeast corner of the building. More importantly, the map shows there are 4 windows on the east side of the building. From this map, we can determine that the 1841 courthouse was about 51 foot wide and 81 foot deep. The building was constructed of brick, with the tower being wood framed. Jumping to the 1905 Sanborn map, we can see that the front addition was constructed by the Oddfellows. Essentially, the original Oddfellows building addition and modifications made a resulting T-shaped building. The 1905 map also shows a brick addition to the rear of the Oddfellows building for an expanded printing office. As you can see from this photograph that I took during 2005, that addition was collapsing and it was partially removed. Based on my own field work and the Sanborn maps, the Oddfellows removed between 30 and 35 feet of the front of the 1841 courthouse. More importantly, the portion removed was the only architecturally significant portion of the building, the Greek Revival facade. Make no mistakes, the 1905 map shows the building in its original Oddfellows state, and again, since we were able to measure the Sanborn maps, we can see that nearly 40% of the original 1841 courthouse has been razed for the Oddfellows' new home. The courtroom on the second floor of the building was actually the meeting hall of the Oddfellows. One might postulate that the courtroom was the same size, but that would be pure conjecture. Destructive exploration would need to be conducted to find any scars left by interior walls that could have been removed during the Oddfellows renovation. Reviewing the existing building as it stands today, we can see that there are only 3 windows remaining on the second floor of the 1841 building fragment. What is left of the 1841 courthouse is only the rear exterior wall and a portion of the side exterior walls. The 2 load-bearing walls are still present in the first floor, but to be very clear, this buried 1841 building fragment is not eligible for the National Register of Historic Places. And here we can see those interior bearing walls that I talk about. I've created a reconstruction of what might remain of the 1841 courthouse if we removed all of the later construction. While they no longer exist, I included the first floor windows in the model. The ghosted area in the front of the building represents the long removed front 40% of the building. Since that 1905 snap and shot time, multiple building campaigns have expanded the Oddfellows building to its current state. There are a number of small additions of substandard and questionable construction that combine to make up a complex building, but make no mistake, what we see is not the 1841 courthouse. But internal to this complex collection of construction campaigns are 3 walls and part of a roof that was once a nice building that had outlived its constructed use and was modified extensively to meet the needs of a group of Oddfellows. It's simply time to stop calling this building the 1841 courthouse, or that it exists behind it. That building no longer exists. Its proper name of this building is the Oddfellows building.